Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Travel. My name is Gary Arndt, coming to you once again from my mom's basement in Wisconsin. And this is just going to, for all the people who think travel blogging is a glamorous profession, this show is, I think, going to dash all of your dreams. Because I'm not the only one coming from my parents' home today. With me again, as usual, is the lovely Jen Leo. How are you doing, Jen?
I'm doing fine. In which this home, I am the parent.
That's, I guess, the nice part about being a grown-up. Chris is not with us this week. He's off on a junket or something. I don't know. Where is he? In Thailand or something like that? Or he's in Asia.
He's been traveling a lot. He's been traveling a lot this month. It's very exciting for him.
He's the new Gary. Like, the reason we can't do the show now is Chris, not me. So I'm shifting all the blame. But to make up for Chris not being here, we have two guests, and quite frankly, I'm kind of astonished that we've never had them on the show before. We have Dave Bosco and Deb Corbell from the PlanetD.com. They are Canada's adventure couple. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great, Gary.
And Jen. And we are here at my mom and my dad's dining room. So we're just as exciting and glamorous as Gary. We're up here in freezing cold Canada. Yeah. There's snow on the ground still. It's cold.
Yeah.
but Dave's in a t-shirt, and you guys look terrific. Did you just get back from the islands? Because you are kind of glowing.
I wish. No way, man. We've been home for like 3.5 months now. Well, home being in Deb's mom and dad's house here in Woodstock. So
that energy is a little vibe of restlessness.
I think so.
It is, definitely. We're definitely itching to maybe get away from Woodstock for a little while.
We like to call it house sitting. My parents spend their winters in Florida, so we've taken over their house where they're gone.
Oh.
It feels like we're grown-ups in our own little house. For the
Almost.
Playing house.
We're playing house for sure.
Well,
why don't we start off by getting in? Oh, what were you saying, Jen?
I was just going to say it must be so nice to have laundry facilities, like within arm's reach.
It's amazing.
It is.
And you know what? It's a lot of fun for us because we've been on the road so long that, it's fun for us to go grocery shopping and make dinner together and, do the laundry.
The exciting times of a travel blogger living in your mom and dad's house.
We're right back to old habits, though. I clean the toilets. Dave will never touch them. So, it's just like we're back at, I'm always going
to... The secret's out now.
I'm just curious, what is this laundry you speak of? Is that a Canadian thing?
Usually we just find new clothes as we go and throw them out when they're dirty, but I don't know, Deb does the laundry, not me.
All right, well, let's get into some news before we start talking to Deb and Dave about some more stuff. This just kind of popped into the news feed this morning. There was an attack on a TSA agent at the New Orleans airport, and this is one of the most bizarre attacks that I've ever heard of. It wasn't a gunman. The guy had a can of Wasp spray and a machete. Now, the machete I kind of get. It's a weapon. The Wasp spray? I don't know. And it appears the TSA agent is not injured too much. I saw a picture. He was upright when he was on the hospital leaving the airport on a gurney. I was just wondering, is the Wasp spray in a 3-ounce container, and was it see-through?
He put it in a plastic bag before he brought it in.
So what was were there, I didn't see any pictures. I was reading it online. I didn't see any pictures of the bad guy. What were we talking about in terms of what was he trying to do?
He was 62 years old, and I'm getting the impression that if you're using Wasp spray, he was probably mentally ill or something.
He's a taxi driver, and he just got his limousine license too, though. So that was kind of scary. I'm wondering if I wouldn't want to get into his taxi with him.
I don't think so.
And they said he had no previous history, so I'm thinking like Bourne Ultimatum or something there. Those drug enhancements effects.
Yeah.
I'm watching a lot of TV this winter.
What I want to know is how did he get in with the machete? Like, where was the machete as he walked through the line to approach the TSA agent? Was he, was it down his pants? Like, what's going on? Where do you carry a machete? The Wasp spray, I understand.
You could conceal a machete in a jacket or something. I guess the guy he attacked, so when you go through the airport security, there's that guy who like looks at your boarding pass and then he scribbles something meaningless on it.
Yes.
That was the guy he attacked. So this wasn't like at the scanner or anything like that.
So he hadn't even been like standing quietly in line, ready to pounce.
Yeah. Maybe we've been through some airports where you go through a metal detector, just even when you walk in. Maybe that's something they should.
Or you walk into the airport, yeah.
I don't know.
But then I guess they opened fire, right? They shot him 3 times, correct?
Yeah, and that's the TSA agent got hit. That's the one that was injured. That's where the injury happened. The TSA agent got hit by a stray bullet.
Yeah, I think he was running away or something. And it was a non-TSA security person that shot him.
Yeah.
Ah, it was, okay.
To sort of endear you a little bit more to TSA agents, like they are not paid enough.
Exactly.
And I can only imagine they go through
that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I wonder what he was flagged for, because they said when he got there to the TSA agent that's when they sort of flagged him, and that's when he went berserk. So I wonder what they flagged him for. Maybe it was the machete.
Yeah, maybe it was the machete.
You can't go in there with that.
Maybe it was crazy eyes, Dave.
I think that must be it.
What else, Gary?
I am not a big fan of the TSA. I'm sympathized for the individuals here, but the fact is, there are people that work at convenience stores that get, attacked like this, and cab drivers, and quite frankly, for the work that the TSA does, I don't think that paying them any more is necessarily going to deliver a better product. They're annoying, they abuse their power, and they're not really picking the best and the brightest.
So do you think that they should do something else to sort of stop something that's from happening, or do you think it's just sort of a random thing that, you can't really stop from happening?
This you can't stop. I mean, at some point, you have to, no matter what the security chain is, there's a first link in it. You can always attack that, right? If you're lining up to go through security, you just attack the line. So there's always going to be some weak point in anything you're doing. So I don't think that there's anything you can do about that.
Well, Gary, how would you rewrite air travel security in the U.S.?
Most of our security right now is reactionary, and it's based on politicians protecting their ass from things which happened in the past. So we had to take off our shoes after a guy tried to put a bomb in his shoes. Before that, we didn't worry about that. So everything we're doing right now is like, oh, someone did this, so now we have to look like we're doing something. The putting your stuff in the little bottles was a reaction to, again, some sort of plot they found, which, if you talk to the security experts, it never would have worked anyhow, but they had to look like they were doing something. So it's security theater. And when you look at the TSA blog, they say, well, we confiscated this many guns. And it's like, wow, that's great. We don't want guns on the flights. But the problem is, by their own data, they miss 60% of the stuff that goes through when they do their own tests. That means for every gun that they capture, there's another gun that's on a plane, and it's been happening now for 15 years. So it's not like they've never caught a terrorist, 0. So every time that they do something, it's a false positive. No TSA agent has ever, they're just not trained to do this sort of stuff. And when we talk about something like Israel, the difference is we look for weapons, whereas Israel looks for bad people. And we're just not equipped to do that in this country, and I don't think we're ever going to be.
Okay,
the whole thing about security.
Population? I mean, like, if you look at the smaller countries, sure, it's a lot easier for them to find, obviously bad people. But in the U.S., do you think it's a manpower thing? Do you think it's the amount of people going through the airports, or is it just a lack of interest in doing this?
We're a big country, for starters. So Israel has basically one airport, right? You fly into Ben Gurion, that's where most of and if you've flown into that airport or out, they have this huge area set up with all these tables where they literally just search everything, they question you and do all that stuff. You couldn't do that in the U.S. Just impossible. Right. Like the porno scanners we have set up, they don't do anything. They're probably less effective than the metal scanners. And they know this, and there's all sorts of stuff online about how you can sneak stuff through, and they still do it because. I mean, there's no particular rhyme or reason to it. And, here's to give you an idea. Let's say a terrorist was trying to get a gun through security, and they get caught with the gun, what should happen to them? They maybe go to jail or they get arrested, or all right. What happens if you take a bottle of water through security? They ask you to throw it in a bin. If the water is truly dangerous, you should go to prison for bringing water into an airport. The fact that they don't do that.
All right, cutting you off. So anyway, what about?
But that just proves it's not really dangerous, because if it were, then it should be treated like a gun. But it's not, because we all know it's not really dangerous.
Okay, but instead of complaining about what we do have, why don't we talk about, you guys are traveling multiple times a month all over the world. Is Israel the only place that it feels productive and safe? Are there other airports where they are attacking terror threats and you feel like it's done well?
I never feel that it's productive. I find it all. I always feel that if a terrorist group is going to attack an airport, they're going to figure out a way to do it. They're just making it difficult for all of the regular people that aren't doing a lot. Like when they're opening up our laptops, not really looking at it, just like Gary said, checking your water, tossing it in a bin. It all feels like smoke and mirrors to me, and they're just making a huge inconvenience for the regular traveler, where they should be looking for the bad guys. I agree.
And there's no consistency anywhere. That's what I always find. It doesn't matter. Each airport is always different. So sometimes you got to take your shoes off here. Sometimes you got to get rid of your water bottle. Sometimes you need to.
Sometimes you can leave your computer in your case. Other times you have to have it out.
So it's always different. So it seems like there's a lack of consistency around all the airports. So if everybody was on the same page and wanting to, do their best for security, shouldn't there be some sort of standard that you have to follow?
There's a guy's a security expert. His name is Bruce Schneider, and I've been following his blog for a really long time. And he says that since 9/11, there have been two changes that have actually really helped security. One is they lock the cockpit door, and two, if something happens on a plane now, passengers know to fight back. And on the day of September 11th, the first 3 flights, nobody knew what was happening. Normally, when a plane was hijacked, it was like, take me to Cuba, they want ransom money or they want asylum, and that was always what a hijacking was. The idea of crashing a plane into a building had never happened before. By the time the 4th flight happened, they knew what had happened to the other 3 flights, and they fought back. And since then, every so often in the news, you hear about somebody going nuts on a plane, and the passengers duct taping them to the seat or doing something like that. So the idea of using a plane as a weapon, I think, is pretty much gone, because you can't get into the cockpit and you now have to fight with 100 people on the flight. As far as blowing up a plane, there's been news stories all the time about the shoddy security of the people who work at the airports. So while we're trying to screen all the passengers, and again, it's making people feel like something is being done, there's this enormous hole that's happening on the ground for the people that work at the Quiznos or whatever in the airport, who can just kind of waltz in and get past security without doing anything. So.
And I think, if they take those things away, and if something happens, then they can't do that now. Once they put these things in place, you can't take them away in case someone does smuggle nitroglycerin in a water bottle or whatever and blow up a plane. Where do you go from here? You can't take those security measures away. So I don't know what the answer is to actually improve them and make it easier on the people that travel.
Do you remember when they used to have the warning system where it's like, we're at code orange, there's code green, and there's code red, but they could never go under code orange, because if they did and something happened, whoever put us on code green would have a huge political problem. So in all of our securities like that, it's so if something should happen, people in power can point to it and say, hey, we did this, we made you take your shoes off, we made you go through the porno scanner, we did all this stuff, so don't say we didn't try. And that's, I think, really what it's all about.
What about, okay, I'm hearing what you're saying about it being theater and just going through the motions, but what if these little dumb procedures actually slow things down and make people more aware of the possibility, so that it does enable or empower passengers to contribute and help things? Maybe it's just a matter of slowing everything down.
I think if someone is on a plane and gets up and yells jihad, that's all the incentive anyone needs.
I'm thinking about in the airport, Gary. Like,
Yeah,
if it was just a green light, if we didn't have any of this, if we didn't have security and everybody was just going along, happy as can be, oh, I get to go on my flight and my mom gets to meet me at the gate on the way back or something like that, and there's this feeling of there's no threat at all. But maybe by slowing everything down, it just, it gives the bad guys a little more obstacles, tiny obstacles.
Yeah, but
So-
I also think that if they're on a mission to blow up a plane,
They will.
slowing them down is going to really make much of a difference. And I think it somewhat incites a little bit of paranoia too in the population, in that there's all these measures going on, so people are actually, the comfort of traveling is not there. You're always freaking out when you're in an airport. You're always looking at someone who left their bag. It's like, oh, there's a bag over there. I better call security or something like that. You're hyper aware of what's going on, and it's just making people even more paranoid about what's going on. That's what I think.
There's got to be a happy medium, though.
I agree. There has to be.
Blind bliss and paranoia. But you know what? Taking a plane and blowing it up, so old. That's just so passé. Now you take a plane and you hide it so nobody can find it.
Yeah, exactly. That's the trick. The David Blaine of plane hijacking.
I don't know if you guys have heard this, but I heard an interesting conspiracy theory about the Malaysia Air flight. So it was flying towards. So the United States has a base in the Indian Ocean in Diego Garcia. The plane, whatever happened, was on autopilot or either intentionally or unintentionally, was flying towards Diego Garcia, and the United States Navy shot it down, cleaned up the mess, and never told anybody.
I could believe that. I think there's a lot going on out there that we can.
I don't know. It was a French newspaper that kind of threw that out there. Again, I don't think there's much in the way of evidence, but I don't know. It's interesting.
It is odd how things just disappear for that amount of time.
Yeah. When I
Let's
can
go to a different story.
iPhone,
Yeah.
with a computer, and they can't find a plane. It's crazy.
Let's move on to another story. So last week we talked about Ryanair was thinking about doing transatlantic flights to North America, and this week they said, no, we're not going to do it. So I would just like to tip my hat and say, well played, Ryanair. Once again, you have gotten us to talk about you. This occurs roughly every 6 months. It's either we're going to make people pay for toilets, we're going to make people fly standing up. They float some dumb idea that they instantly quash a week later that gets us to talk about it. So good job, Ryanair.
Yes, I applaud you. Excellent marketing techniques.
Yeah, so basically Spirit Air is slipping. We haven't talked about them in a year or more.
Speaking of discount airlines, have any of you guys flown Norwegian Air? I've had a couple people that they offer really cheap tickets across the Atlantic. It's like $300 or something. And the way they're doing it, I guess, is their flight crews are all from Thailand.
Mm.
So they get on a flight in Bangkok, they fly to like Oslo, and then they get on a flight somewhere else, fly back to Bangkok, and then they get their time off. But they're basically being paid Thai rates, not Norwegian rates. And that's the reason why they do it so cheap. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, I have a doozy of a tip for the end of the show. I'm not going to tell you. Don't make me do 2 tips.
I'm doing 2 tips. There's no way.
No, the whole hour is supposed to be tips.
But what's the comfort level like on a Norwegian flight?
And how does the Norwegian feel about this? They're losing jobs to the Thais.
So Deb Cole, she works for TBEX and NMX.
Right.
She flew from Spain to Fort Lauderdale. This was in January, I think, and she flew on Norwegian Air, and I think she had a brief layover near the Oslo airport, and she said she liked it. But more importantly, the flight was just like half the price of any other flight that was doing a similar route. So
I like it.
I think if the price is right, you can put up with quite a bit for a couple hours.
Yeah.
As long as you pay for toilets and stand up, you're good.
So, question. I know we might have one more news story or 2, but I'm just getting things ready in advance.
Maybe one more.
Gary and Dave and Deb, Can I meerkat us interviewing Dave and Deb while we're doing the podcast at the same time?
You go for that, Jen. You do it.
I don't even know
Dave
if
and Deb? Okay, but we'll find out. Okay.
I can't wait.
Carry on. Setting up the meerkat stream.
This is kind of two different stories, but I think they're kind of related. Egypt is announcing that everybody that travels to Egypt is going to have to get a visa prior to arrival. Now, normally it's been you could just get a visa at the Cairo airport or wherever you landed. And conversely, Indonesia has announced that they're getting rid of their visa on arrival, and now I think there's 30 countries where, including the United States, Canada, most European countries, can arrive without a visa, and you don't have to pay the money at the airport anymore in hopes of increasing tourism to the region. Have you guys been to Egypt?
Yes,
both.
A couple times. Yeah.
Funny to me is that they left out Australia for Indonesia because Australian is their largest tourist market, so that's kind of funny. Another thing that we found when we were in Indonesia is that they should worry less about the $35 fee and more about extending your stay. Because I know for us, we stayed for a month, and then we wanted to travel around some more. So we went back to Malaysia to extend our visa, and instead of going back, we said, let's not bother, let's just move on. So they haven't talked about that. Egypt, I have a problem because they're allowing tour groups in to get a visa on arrival, but not individual travelers. So they're discriminating against independent travelers.
My guess is that the Egyptian policy is that they're trying to cut down on people like ISIS or whatever getting into Egypt.
Yeah, but still, if you can get in a tour group, terrorism organizations are not stupid. They'll be like, fine, I'll join a tour then. I just don't understand that idea. So if you either have to do it all the way across, but they're thinking about the money. So once again, it's a smoke and mirrors thing because they're like, well, tours are our biggest, tourism marketing dollar. So we're going to allow tour groups in, but any individual coming through, no, they're not allowed. And
I did find it a bit ironic that they said, by 2016 or something, that they wanted to increase tourism 2020 by a certain amount of $1 million, and I don't think that this is the best way to go about it. Egypt has had its troubles with tourism in the past couple of years, and I don't think this is doing them any favor, especially if they're leaning on tourism to be a big contributor to,
But it won't make much of a difference anyway because they're allowing tour groups in.
Yeah.
We had talked in the past, I think it was in October, India got rid of their visas for a lot of countries. Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan have gotten rid of the requirements for visas. And in all of those cases, I haven't been to those countries, but they kind of moved up my list knowing that all I need to do is book a flight and go, and I could do it. And I don't have to go through the rigmarole of going to an embassy and filling out the paperwork. And it may take a year, a couple of years, I think, for tourism to pick up. But I'm always shocked at the number of countries, especially, I was in West Africa last year. The visa requirements are ridiculous. They cost a lot of money. They're a real pain. And then they're kind of shocked why they don't have tourism. It's because you don't welcome people.
I agree. It's the same with like when we went to Kazakhstan and Russia. The visa processes for those places are just insane. So, if you're traveling somewhere else and you're like, hey, I'd love to go to Kazakhstan or Russia, well, you can't just do that. You need to actually plan, go to an embassy, or send away your passport, and take time somewhere in order to pass this rigorous process, which definitely affects whether I want to go there or not.
Yeah, a lot of times though I find it's reciprocal. Like when we were going into Istanbul, Canadians have a higher visa charge than anywhere else. And we found out it's because we charge people from Turkey $600 for a visa to come here. So it's sort of like the government going, screw you if you're going to charge us that. And that's what we found in Argentina. I think you guys I think that we have more expensive than Americans going into Argentina as well. So it's
I'm also a big fan of doing the same. I think that the United States wants more people to visit, and we need to make it easier. And I've heard people process of getting a visa to the United States is really demeaning, that you got to go to the embassy and do all this stuff. And I even remember when I was in Samoa that there's Samoa the country, and then there's American Samoa, the U.S. territory, and they're right next to each other, and they're exactly the same culture, same language, same everything, and there's family that are on one island or the other. And to visit, it's this huge process and all this crap you have to go through. And I would never understood it because they could make it so much easier and almost for every country. Brazilians, there's a lot of Brazilians that come to New York that come to the United States, and we make it very difficult for Brazilians. And conversely, Brazil is the only country in the Western Hemisphere that requires a pre-approved visa for Americans to come. And I just, we could make a lot of money by doing this.
Yeah, and I'm not necessarily against the fee. It's the process that makes it not appealing to me. As long as it's not like a crazy astronomical fee, I'm not adverse to, like they say, getting one on arrival, paying the fee. That's fine. It's the whole process that you have to go through. I think that really makes it not appealing to go to a destination.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think we're just as bad in Canada, making it difficult for people coming from other countries. And in this day and age, I think it shouldn't be. The developing world, there's a lot of people that have a lot of money that want to explore the world, and we shouldn't demean them for wanting to come to visit our nations.
Yes.
So sometimes I do agree with them when they say, well, you charge us $600. What's 60 euro to you? So we sort of had to eat our words. We're like, yeah, okay, here you go.
All right, well, let's move on from the news stories. You guys have had an interesting last couple of months. Dave especially, you had a really bad injury. Why don't you tell us about what happened and how things are going now?
Yeah, sure. It was back at the end of November, and we were on an Amazon cruise with International Expeditions. And about 4 days into the cruise, we were down a back tributary of the river there, and got off to do some exploring. And just before we went off to go on this jungle hike, I said, oh, I forgot a piece of photography equipment. I wanted to go and get my flash back on the skiff boat. So I walked back to get to the skiff boat, and there's stairs to walk down the bow of it. As I got to the second stair, my feet went out from underneath me, and I basically broke my fall with my back. And that I didn't know it at the time, but I ended up breaking 2 vertebrae in my back.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's crazy, Dave.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's bad enough, but the process of sort of getting out of there and getting back home was a whole other complication as well. It took us to just get out of the Amazon to Iquitos. That took 10 hours for me to get from where I was, and taking a float plane back to Iquitos that had to land twice because of weather, and then onto a tuk-tuk, where they took me through the back roads to a small little village where I got on a rickety little ambulance that drove me to Iquitos. So just even that process was crazy.
Yeah, it was quite the tough day. Dave was lucky because there was a nurse on board, a retired nurse, Joyce, who, we were all afraid. Dave fell. He was all contorted at the bottom of the boat, and I was terrified to move him because, I didn't know what happened. All I could think is if we move him, anything could happen. So luckily she was there, and she examined him and said, we have to move him. So got all of the guides together and put cushions all around you and strapped you up and then set you on the side of the boat, where we sat for 45 minutes while they made phone calls on the satellite phone just trying to get a signal. Because we were as far as you could get in the Amazon, as away as you could. So then they said they were having trouble getting a plane because of the weather getting in. And he had no painkillers, no water, no food. It was tough.
And then we spent 8 days in the hospital in Iquitos before I had to be airlifted home. And I think that time in the Amazon, in Iquitos was probably a lot more stressful on you than it was on me, because I was just all drugged out. So I'm sitting there all pumped up on drugs while Deb had to deal with insurance and all that kind of stuff. It was,
were you guys, did you have any travel insurance for medevac or anything?
We did, and luckily we had that, and we've always traveled with travel insurance, and I actually read on Gary's blog the other day he does as well, so good for you, because that would have cost us almost $100,000 to get out of there, because they told us that the flight is $50,000. We were having trouble getting a bed back in Canada. That was really nice to see, our Canadian healthcare system. They were like, all beds are full between Toronto and Woodstock, actually London, where we were looking. That's a good 3-hour circle of driving, and they were like, we can't get a bed to take you. And I was like, can't you just fly me, and we'll call 911 when we get home? And then that's when they said, well, it's a $50,000 flight, and we have to go through all the proper channels to get you there. So that's why Dave was in the hospital for 8 days in Iquitos. They just had him on drugs. Had a new specialist come in every day and verify that we got this every day. Yes, we have confirmed you have broken a vertebrae. You know,
A different person every day.
Dave, were you on painkillers? I know Deb was going nuts. Thank you for updating everybody on Facebook. I'm sure everybody you know was just worried sick.
You know, that was my savior because I don't speak Spanish. We were in the middle of the Amazon. Nobody speaks English. And just before we went on the cruise, we luckily bought a SIM card. I don't know why, because there was Wi-Fi on the cruise, but we just bought it. And I was all alone for that week. That's why I really started doing the updates, because Dave, he was on severe narcotics and just completely out of it. Yeah. And I stayed with him in the hospital, and I just sat there all day, like, trying to talk to people. Luckily, International Expeditions gave us an interpreter, but he wasn't there 24/7, so that was sort of keeping me sane doing the Twitter updates and the Facebook updates. So just the support from everyone in the travel community was unbelievable.
Yeah,
like,
it really was
amazing. We were in tears so often. Whenever Dave was coherent, I'd read what people were saying, and it was just so emotional for us. But I can't get over the community. Like, we have the best people in the world working in this business.
Absolutely. It also became kind of a gift basket competition, too.
Oh, my God.
I didn't even participate because I thought it'd be too weird. It would be so obvious I was competing.
Oh, my gosh. You know, I just started off doing like little thank yous, and then I was like, oh my God, I got it. And it was this, it was almost another stress of wanting to thank everyone publicly. I was like, I'm going to thank everybody.
And who started it? Did Jame start it?
Who was the, no.
Somebody was super fast.
Yeah. Who started the first? Oh, it was International Expeditions, yeah. I think. They sent the big, huge, sent the big, huge gift basket of fruit, and then it just started coming from everyone. And it just meant so much. And we gained so much weight over the holidays because of all that chocolate.
Thank you very much.
It was like a little jumping around going, ooh, what are we going to eat today?
But hey, Dave, back surgery, I mean, 2 broken vertebrae, don't you heal slowly? Like, well, it didn't seem like it took you that long to start walking again.
No, actually, I was quite lucky in the sense that I didn't have to have surgery because the vertebrae that were broken were not displaced.
Oh, okay.
So, they could heal on their own and through physiotherapy. So I spent a lot of time in physio, but they do, you know, like here, they got me out or got me up walking. When I came back to Canada, I was up starting to walk after 4 days of being back here. So
yeah, it was like less than a week.
Yeah, they get the pain under control. Once they can get the pain under control, they get you up and get you moving. So
as soon as we got back, they were telling me, we've got to get him mobile. We've got to get this pain under control because if you don't use it, you'll lose it. And they were like, it'll be worse the longer he stays. So they had him up within a few days.
But I will say the pain of constipation might have been a little bit more than that of my back. I mean, I didn't go to the bathroom for like 7 days.
In a ketos.
In a ketos.
They didn't give him the...
Then they flew me home, and you know they're like, yeah, we need to get that under control. And
so what you're saying is, in the future, instead of sending fruit and chocolate, send like fiber.
Yeah, send laxative.
Send something.
Raisin Bran.
Right, because of those pain meds.
Yeah.
Hey guys, so I don't know if you know this, but I started meerkatting this while you were telling your story, which means we are doing a live video stream. I'll give you an example. I will put it on me for a second, and, well, no, that won't work. We'll do it like this. Hey, I'm Jen Leo, and we can thank our friends for coming. I have one friend in there, Harold Check. I saw a guy named Paulo, John, Rob. Thank you for joining us. What we're going to do now is go ahead and ask a question in the comments box, and we will ask Dave and Deb your question as they come in. Now I'm going to flip it around. So did you see me talking? Did you see the live stream?
Yeah, that's great.
I have to
This is like Inception. We're like a stream within a stream.
Oh my God!
How many levels deep can we go?
So they do. People do actually meerkat their Google Hangouts. I don't think we're going to be doing this regularly. I just kind of wanted to show you guys what I've been obsessed with lately. But usually Meerkat is much more interactive, and you're talking to the people that are watching, and they're commenting. You're asking them to like and retweet this. We have had 0 likes and retweets, probably because we haven't been talking to the Meerkat community. We've just been listening. But, hey, if anybody there has a question for Dave and Deb, go ahead and holler at us in the comment section. Please like and retweet, and if you do, we will answer your questions, and if you don't, we'll just hang up on you.
I'm starting a Ustream of the meerkat of the Hangout.
Oh my God.
Are you really, Gary?
So
There's Gary. Are you really, Gary?
bandwidth is finite.
So, Gary, these are usually a bunch of social media people. Tell them all about your social media stats. I have you on the big screen now, Gary. Just come on, just show off a little bit.
Just go to everything-everywhere, and you can
He's
find out
got,
all
like,
you want, or go to
He's got,
theplanetd.com and.
2 million people following him in all of them.
You guys probably have like what, 2 million combined across all your social media channels?
Well, just Google Plus.
Yeah.
That would probably do it.
Right there.
There you go. All right. Well, we are getting no questions, so we might hang up on them. Gary, keep talking to Dave and Deb.
So now that you guys are back, what's in the plans for the rest of 2015?
Well, Dave just finished his last of his physio 2 weeks ago, so we have to get back in shape, and we're doing a lot of walking and things like that. And then we're going to be heading off on a really adventurous cruise next week. So we're starting off nice and easy. We're doing our first Caribbean cruise with Carnival, and I'm pretty excited because I think that's going to be nice to relax. Then we head to Hawaii, and then we're doing the summer in Spain, which I believe you're going to be in Spain too, so we'll probably be seeing you around. So that's about it for now.
That's as far as we planned ahead. We're, again, slowing down and, trying to make this a year of finding balance, as you can attest to being on the road all the time. It's really hard to balance work, travel, and life. So we sort of, me breaking my back sort of came at a good time. If it can come at a good time.
Yeah, you know what? I'm good, Dave. I'm going to give you more credit than that because I met you guys in Greece and we had a really lovely chat, and you were talking about finding balance before the injury happened.
We were, yeah. And that's the interesting thing because we were talking about it, and I think we were saying to you, we just have to finish up this year. We have a lot of things that we have booked, and we just have to finish up. And I almost think it was an eye-opener, and the powers that be said, no, you're not going to finish up this year.
Yeah.
You're done. So it was it really hit home because we were saying we've got to slow down. We're not experiencing life the way we want to. It's amazing to travel, but you can't just be jumping around. We weren't we weren't having those feelings of awe anymore, and we were just tired and stressed. And that made us really hit home that life is short. Anything can happen because it could have gone either way. Dave could have been a fraction to the left and been paralyzed, or he could have been higher and broke his neck. You just never know what can happen, and you got to make sure that you enjoy each moment. And even though we were talking about it last year, this year we really realized it hit home 100%.
Yeah, so we're going to be zigzagging
what destinations did you have to postpone?
We had to postpone. Well, we were partway through the Amazon. This cruise was something that we had right after that, and then we had some winter adventures in Alberta that we were going to do. And then that was as far as we got, but that was already November, so it was a little crazy. That was going to be taking
just to finish off the year, yeah.
Yeah, so.
But everybody was great. I mean, like anything that we had to postpone, they were like, yeah, no problem. Yeah. So it did work out in the end, but we've also taken into consideration that, this year I'm going to spend more time in destinations and, rather than just popping in and out and doing it really, really fast. Yeah. And, actually settle down for a little bit. And that's something that we have never really thought of prior to last year. But we want to take some time in destinations rather than, moving from hotel room to hotel room.
We joked about it at the beginning about playing house, but we've really missed that aspect of our lives, about having a circle of friends, about having just time to relax, to just go for a walk around the neighborhood. And I love it because I'm pretending, I live here, and neighbors of my parents are like, oh, where are you? Are you new? We're like, oh, yeah, we live down the street. So it's been kind of nice, and it's been something we've been missing in our life, and it's made us realize we want to find that again.
Nice, Deb. And so what is it like hanging out with your friends? Like, do you get to talk about your travels, or are they like, ugh, I don't want to hear about another awesome travel experience?
I think it's kind of like we have to relearn how to hang out with our friends. It sounds very crazy, but we don't talk too much about our travels and stuff like that. But it's sort of, I found it harder to find common ground. The longer we've been gone, the harder it's been to find common ground when you do get together with people. So the conversation can start off a little bit awkward, but then you have to. It's hard.
It's kind of funny because I think our friends really do want to hear about our travels, but we're a little self-conscious of it, so we tend to not really talk about it. We sort of always keep putting it back on them. And yeah, we've lost social skills, I think. You know. So.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about, because you don't want to be that pretentious person that's like, oh, let's have a hamburger, and you're like, oh, well, the hamburgers in Paris are so much better, or something like that, and then everyone's rolling their eyes at you, and I know exactly what you mean, because I have done nothing for the last 8 years of my life but this. Mm-hmm. So I don't have anything else to talk about. It's like all the rest of my friends, they're having babies and doing other stuff, and I'm just like,
Gary,
well,
got friends? You got friends, Gary?
Not really. Hypothetically.
your invisible friends are having babies?
It's the same with us.
I'm speaking as if, someone had friends, that's what they would have done.
I'm just messing with you, Gary. I know you've got friends.
It's hard to reconnect, though, because as Gary said, everyone's gone on with their lives. And, 5 years ago when you came home, they'd be like, yeah, let's get together. Now they're like, oh, I have to go to softball or hockey or something like that. And it's kind of like, yeah, you're not a part of my life anymore, so we're trying to reconnect, and it's been mostly with really old, solid friends that we've got to go out a bit, and mostly reconnecting with our family even. That's pretty crazy to say, but seeing my brothers and sisters more than once in a year, it's been cool. It's like, oh my God, we've seen you twice in 1 month? This is crazy.
So that softball thing is totally real, and do not take offense to it. You just have to be able to get up earlier, stay up later, to meet those softball sucked out parents.
Yeah, I understand completely, and that's what I mean. But as Gary said too, your life is travel, so for you to talk about things that seem nonchalant to you, but you might be saying, oh yeah, when we were in Santorini, this happened, and they'll be like, that's where you don't want to be that one going, but that's the only thing you have to talk about because that's where you were last month, so.
Right. Well, if it makes you guys feel better, you too, Gary, I talked about with a friend yesterday. So somebody who might only go on one vacation a year, or maybe two little ones and one big one. One of my mom friends went to Aulani last year. So they have two little kids, and Aulani is the Disney resort in Hawaii that is like the piece de la resistance of family travel. It's really expensive. It's super amazing. And she's having issues because they just had this dream vacation, right? And they're having a tough time talking about it with their friends because their own friends cannot, it's not even within their scope to go on a trip that grand. It's like, I think they spent like $9,000 for a week of travel for a family of 4, which is a lot when you're paying the bills yourself.
Yeah.
And so, so I've been talking to her about issues about how they have actually broken up with one of their friends because their friends can't handle the conversation. And so they start tiptoeing around it and just not talking about their trip, yet they're so excited about this amazing experience they just had. And that's normal, non-traveling people with one vacation.
Yeah, so it happens to everybody, I suppose, right? If you do something like that. So if any of you out there want to be our friends, please feel free to drop us a line and you like travel.
That's hilarious. Gary, you want to make a shout out to ask for some friends who are willing to listen about your heritage sites?
We know we have 2 right here.
We have 2 friends right here.
Yeah.
We have 10 people listening on Meerkat. That's pretty, and nobody's commented. So this is a very unusual Meerkat session. I don't want you guys to think this is how it is. But yeah.
You'll love us.
And now I'm jiggling the camera because I'm cracking up.
I think you do need to realize that the kind of lives that myself and Deb and Dave and some other people we know lead are not normal. Not in any way, shape, or form, and it becomes very, if we're sitting down talking or we're at a conference or something, and we can say, oh, yeah, where are you going to be? Oh, well, I'll meet you in Thailand, or I'll meet you in Australia, and it's just, we don't think about it. Yet, if you really sit down and were to look at a transcript of that discussion, it is something out of a science fiction novel for most people because it is so strange that it's just constantly moving around the earth and things like that, and it's a very, and I think you do need to be cognizant of the fact that it's a very, very different life than what most people lead, or even what they can conceive of. Because most people, they travel once a year, and a lot of people not even that. So it's not something they can relate to really at all.
Yeah, I think
And I
that's.
talked about the difference between like a mommy blog, and they may write an article about, today I was in the store, my kid threw a tantrum, and people reading that will say, oh, my kid threw a tantrum once too. We share that in common. I know exactly what you're talking about. Whereas if you write something about traveling to some exotic place, nobody can understand that, because most people.
No, nobody can relate. Just there's less people that can relate to it. It's not that they can't understand; they can't relate or empathize or.
But it's doing something that is inherently the reason why I think people follow people like us is the exact opposite reason they may follow, say, a mommy blogger. Mm-hmm. It's that we're doing something that they don't do. They can live vicariously, as opposed to doing something where there's a very commonality that they can share an experience. Whereas we're doing things that a lot of people just, they're not going to experience. And I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but if I write about a place, or if I post a photo, the people who comment on it will change dramatically based on where the photo is from. Because if you've never been to that place, if I post a photo from Vanuatu, most people have never been to Vanuatu. They have nothing to share. They have nothing to contribute. And so the few people who have been to Vanuatu will say, hey, I've been there, or yeah, I was there. And as a result, I can post a crappy photo from Paris or London, and it will get more engagement than a great photo from someplace no one's ever heard of, simply because of that effect, that people can relate to the Paris or the London photo, whereas they can't relate to Sierra Leone.
Well, and that's just where the interaction comes in. But I think what all three of you do is really inspiring, and people like tuning into that, but they also like tuning into feeling connected to like-minded people. So travelers are going to connect with you because whether they're stuck in a job and only traveling a few times a year, it's still a part of who they are, and they want those connections, and they want to stay connected to their inner selves, really.
I've been on a couple of G-Adventure trips with people who, they have full-time jobs, but they work so they can travel. So they take their money and they make sure to get a lot of vacation time, and they travel quite a bit, and they're very well-traveled people. They may not travel full-time like we do, but they've been to a lot of places, and it's something that they've done throughout their whole life. So I don't think you necessarily have to be us. And there are like-minded people out there who travel is a very important thing to them, even though they may not do it to the same extreme that we do.
Something I find people are relating to, or it's also when we talk about what we're talking about with our balance. We all have the same, even no matter what the job, whatever, no matter what the experience, whatever, no matter where you live, you still have the same. Trying to have those friends, trying to see your family, trying to just be happy in life. I find that a lot of people really relate to that. They don't even really care too much about the travel when we're talking about, hey, we're trying to slow down. They're like, me too. I'm just trying to get to the gym more than twice a week or things like that. Mm-hmm. So we've been finding, just it seems that no matter where you are, something I always say about travel, no matter even where you travel to, humans are all the same. We all have the same hopes and fears and laughs and everything like that. So that's my little 2 cents.
All right, well, why don't we move on and go to our picks of the week? And Jen, you've tantalized us with having a great pick, so why don't you lay it on us?
Absolutely. So I reviewed this website for my LA Times Web Buzz column a few weeks back. I am so excited about it. It's called Tics Chart. Tics, it's very hard to say. I'm just going to spell it. TIX chart.com. It's in beta, but it is a low-cost carrier flight scanner. So it finds really cheap flights for you by way of connecting little low-cost carriers. And I think it's mostly in Europe and Pacific Asia, but check it out. It's also the timing of it. But that's where I saw Norwegian, because while at the time I was researching flights to Europe this summer for my family, and they were going for, I think in the low range that I was finding was in the 3,300 to 3,600 for 3 flights in June to be gone about not quite 2 weeks. And not each, Deb, total for 3 people, but
that was,
still.
yeah, like first thing was each. I was like, what?
No, I was expecting the flights to cost $1,200 to $1,500 each, and so I was finding them in that 3 to 4. I mean, 3 on the low end, and then I found this thing, and it was in the 1,500 range, 1,500 to 2,000, and so you're booking. You have to book these little segments, and you book them in chunks. So. Yeah, if you gave me, tell me where you want to go. I'm going to look it up for you.
Okay, where do I want to go?
I want
to go to Paris.
Okay, so you're in, what are you in, YYZ?
Yes.
YYZ, yeah.
I don't know if they do that one yet.
Oh.
Do they do Toronto yet?
London.
Well, we could start, here, we're going to start in LAX, just because I already had that in there. We're going to start in LAX, and then where do you want to go?
Maui.
Can't hear you.
Maui? Hawaii?
Maui? No, that's not going to do it. So that's, it's like doing...
Because you need short little flights,
right?
right?
Yeah, right. Don't listen to me.
Well, you're going a long distance, breaking them up by little flights.
Yeah, so let's say from LAX to Lisbon.
All right, let's see what we can get for Lisbon. When do you want to go, Deb?
Next month sometime, April
26th.
Okay.
All right, April 26th is flying on a Sunday, so we're going to have you fly on a Saturday instead, and we will have you gone a week, and we'll do 2 weeks. So April, what did we say? April 25th to... And now I can't see my screen. There we go. We'll say to May 9th. Search. See what happens. Oh, and it also compares it across the year. So you can get the lowest price. You can see the range for 2 weeks, a month, 3 months, 6 months, or the full year. And it shows you a graph. Here, watch. We're going to do.
That's awesome.
Let's see. How are we gonna show this? Well, my meerkatters can see it.
Most
but
people
anyway,
are listening, so.
I know. So it shows you a graph of your departure, and so you can pick your dates. So we were talking about the 25th, but oh my gosh, look at this chart. It shows me that the cheapest time to go is actually on April 20th, 5 days earlier, for $313. But if you're traveling on the 25th, if you're traveling on the 24th, it's $512. If you're traveling on the 27th, the 29th, it's $610. And so it gives you this great range, and then it shows you the flights, and it's like, oh my gosh, look, I can go on $431, and I'm going by EasyJet, Norwegian with a stop in London and Oslo. So
and is that price including taxes and fees?
I think so, but that's the one way. Yep. So you just have to. So now it says I have to book. So the EasyJet flight is $39. The Norwegian one is $121, and the final Norwegian one, the big one, is $270. But so basically, it's only $270 to get from here to Oslo.
Wow.
That's
one
incredible.
way. Yeah, and it's nuts. So you're buying all these things in little chunks, and you can also change your dates by going, oh my gosh, if I only go 2 days sooner, it's going to be $150 cheaper on that one way. So you compare that across. If you're doing a family of 3 or 4, even 2 people, you can save hundreds of dollars, if not thousands. So anyway, it's a little bit exciting, but you have to be flexible with stopping in other places. But sometimes you can stop for a while, like an overnight or something, and then you get to see another country.
Yeah, exactly. What's the name of it again?
Tix Chart, TIXRT.com.
Okay.
Love it.
All right. Do you guys have a pick for us this week, either collectively or individually?
Yes, I'm probably way behind. Maybe people know about this, but you know how a lot of people are sharing social media with pictures with writing on it and all the different sizes for Facebook and Pinterest and Instagram. I found this website called canva.com.
Yes.
Isn't it amazing? And probably everyone knows
keep talking about it. Canva's awesome. I heard Guy Kawasaki is a fanboy for that site.
Oh, cool. You can make templates for Pinterest, for Facebook, for Twitter, and then you can put writing right over on it, like a really fancy, like I've been...
Great for Pinterest.
Yeah, I'm terrible with Photoshop. Like, I'm fine with it, but, you know, I just am not great at picking all of the artwork and all that stuff. Canva does everything for you, and I can share these great photos, and I look like a pro. For someone like me, it's amazing.
And even the free section. So it's got a free section versus you can buy images and logos and all these other things for like $1.
Yeah.
And so you can either do, the free stuff is fancier than you normally would be, and then spend $1 and whoa.
Yeah, and I love the fact that I can upload my logo and have it across my photos for Pinterest and things like that, and have my writing. It's really exciting because I am always I'm not, you know, I travel blog for a living, but I'm not the technical one of this this relationship. Dave does all the technical stuff. So for me, I've always been going to Dave. Dave, can you make this for me? And he's a busy guy and can't do it. So now I can do it, and I feel very proud of myself. So if I can do it, anyone can, honestly.
I agree.
I would say, so I've discovered this this great app. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's called Instagram. No, I'm kidding. No, but on a more serious note, there's a couple apps that I use for photography on my phone, and I just did get the new iPhone 6 Plus, which I highly recommend for photos. It takes way better photos than any other iPhone. But there's two things I use on there, and especially with lately, there's been a lot of Aurora activity. Hey, he's got one too.
All right. I saw that you had that.
I have one too.
We're iPhone all around, eh?
But there's an app called Sky Safari, which is really great. It gives you a whole map out of the stars. If you're not only just into astronomy, but if you're looking to photograph the Milky Way or anything like that, it basically takes you and wherever you are in the world and shows you what the sky looks like and what time. You can program it to look at what time the sky will look the best or anything like that. So really handy. And also one other app that I use for photography on my phone is long exposure. So if you want to shoot long exposure shots, like to get silky water or anything like that on your phone, you can use this and set the time to whatever you want. So if you just set it on something where the phone is very steady, it has a timer, and it can shoot long exposure shots for you.
And they're cheap apps, right?
Like $1.99, yeah. They're very cheap, but kind of good to have in your arsenal on your phone, I think.
Nice, Dave. I like it.
I hope we're giving you.
I have the long exposure app. I don't think I've ever used it though, because I never.
Yeah,
you have to really get it steady.
Yeah, we have a little stand that we got. That you just that little stand we got. We got it from the ATWS one year, wasn't it?
Yeah, you stick it in your where the headphone goes, and it comes with like a little lever on the back, and you just set it up, and it's you can obviously take it in landscape mode. And
when we were doing our motorcycle touring last year, we couldn't carry any camera gear, so that's where we were using that a lot.
Were you guys riding the motorcycles? Your motorcycle?
We got our motorcycle license last year. Yeah, so it's going to change. Yeah, after we did that, after we got it, we did a bunch of rides, and then we circumnavigated Lake Superior. So we did 2,500 kilometers at the end of the summer.
Isn't that crazy? You can be motorcycling for miles, and then you get hurt falling down some stairs.
I know, it's crazy. It is insane, really, when you think about it. It's like, of all the things that we've done in our life that have been adventurous, which is quite a bit, it's like I end up slipping on some stairs, and that's what incapacitates me.
And he was wearing hiking boots. There, an article went up on Yahoo Travel, and they put a photo of us up in our flip-flops, and everyone was like, "Well, that's what you get for flip-flops." I was like, "But that's a photo from a different time." Yeah. So we were wearing hiking boots when you fell. I just felt like saying that.
That's true.
So my pick this week, it's March, and pretty soon baseball season's going to start. And I always like to follow my sports teams as I'm traveling. And so I have the Major League Baseball at BAT application. And what's nice about it is there's a free version that will basically give you pitch-by-pitch updates if you want. You can actually get a premium version, so you can actually listen to games. You can listen to the actual radio stream of whatever team you have. You can also watch games all on your phone. and you can pretty much do it from anywhere. And they come out with a new app every year, so this would be the 2015 app for the Major League Baseball season. Complete stats, complete everything. Even if you're going to the ballpark, it's a great thing to have with you because it's basically like having a little score sheet in your hand where you can see advanced stats for everything that's happening, plus schedules and everything else. So it's a really great thing to keep up with whatever team or baseball in general. And then the other thing I'd highly recommend, different VPNs to let you watch streaming video when you're traveling. Don't forget about Amazon Prime Video. I've been watching a couple shows on Amazon Prime since I've been here in Wisconsin, one of which is a show called Mr. Selfridge, which I don't know if you've heard about, but it's with Jeremy Piven, and it's a series. It's by Masterpiece Theater, but done with the BBC, about a true story of an American named Harry Selfridge, who moved to London in the early 20th century to open up Selfridge's department store, and he brought all these innovative ideas. This is the guy who invented X number of shopping days till Christmas. He's the guy who invented the phrase, the customer is always right. And he invented all these innovative things that he brought with him to London. He was the first store to have women's bathrooms. So women could go shopping and have a day out, because before that it was you had to go home to go to the bathroom. And just all sorts of innovative things. When World War I broke out, he guaranteed jobs for any soldier that went to go fight in the war when the war was done. And they were like one of the only companies that did that. So that's a show, but also just lots of stuff on Amazon Prime. Everybody thinks of like Netflix and Hulu, but there's a lot of great stuff there too, a lot of which does not overlap. So
excellent. I'll check that out. And what was the baseball?
Amazon Prime.
Sorry, I talked over you. What was the baseball
app? At Bat. Major League Baseball. If you just do a search for Major League Baseball on the iTunes store, it'll come up.
That's going to blow my dad's mind. He's getting our old iPhones, and he loves baseball. I'm totally going to have that on the phone for him when he gets home. He's going to be blown away. I can't wait. It's going to be.
I think there's one premium version for audio that's like $10 or something, and then the video is like maybe $30. But you can basically watch the entire season. So it's, and the free version still gives you the scores and everything else. So it's a great app.
See, my mom will love that too, because now she won't have to. She can just say, "Go look at your app."
I don't have to watch TV.
All right, then. Let's start to wrap things up. Jen, where can people find you online?
You can find me on Twitter at @JenLeo and on Meerkat. I've been doing a lot of meerkatting. I did a hour-long tour of the Carlsbad Farmers Markets the other day, and it was really fun. I was interviewing shop owners and shoppers themselves. A chef was looking at mushrooms with me and telling me all about it. I've really been having a good time with it. You can also find me live and in person at the LA Times Book Festival, where we are having a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of travel in there. So the LA Times decided not to do a travel show this year, but they are having just a few panels.
Did we lose Jen?
I was just wondering if it was us only. I didn't want to say. Yeah.
17th or 18th.
Oh, we lost you there for a second.
You might want to say that again on 17th and 18th.
The whole thing? You can also find me at the LA Times Book Festival, where they are having a tiny, tiny segment of travel there, and I will be moderating a deals panel with Johnny Jett and Gabe from Travel Zoo, and you can find me there in person. I think it's mid-April, April 17th or 18th at the USC campus in Los Angeles.
Awesome.
All right. Dave and Dev, where can people find you online?
They can find us at theplanetd.com, which is our website, which just had a big overhaul and redesign. So hopefully you like it. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of them at theplanetd.
Except YouTube, where we go bye-bye. It's an old channel.
What happened there?
We've been working.
Are you on Ello?
No, we haven't accepted that. Did you do that? I saw you mention it. Yeah.
Well,
how are you liking
technically
it?
I have an account, but I don't do anything with it.
I said goodbye to LO.
We didn't bother signing up. Yeah. We might regret it in the long run. Maybe we should have.
Yeah, and I should say, people should definitely check out your new site. I think it's really good looking and big improvement over what you guys had before. It looks real sharp.
Thanks so much. We're really happy with it because we honestly hated what we had before.
But doesn't that happen every year anyways? It's like getting a digital makeover is so much better than getting a new outfit.
I tell you, I've been telling people it's like a new house for me. Like, I'm all excited about it. You know, other people are like, look at my house. I'm like, I have a new website. So it's fun.
Well, you can find me at everything-everywhere.com and all the major social media platforms. And until next time, whenever that may be, because it's not every week in travel, get outside, buy some travel insurance, and go visit theplanetd.com.
Thanks for having